Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
Just
Hey, I meant to call and tell you, I did go look at that house with the magnolia tree issue.
so the mayor already talked with them,
Uh-huh.
tried to convince them to keep it, and they have refused.
Really? Yeah, because yeah, Jerry called me, I think she called me the same day we talked,
Yeah,
and they refused, huh?
they refused. So you talked to me, then I talked with her, and I told her that you and I had talked earlier in the day. So that's why she called you.
Yeah.
And then she got back with me saying that they were going to consider it. And then I got a new email that says, nope, they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything, and, you know, one thing that, well, I was, found, I talked to the wife,
Mhm.
You know, they bought that house. They didn't know where their property lines were
Mhm.
because she thought the tree was on her property because they used the utility pole as the line. I said, well, that's not always true.
Yeah. Yeah, I always suggest, a lot of people don't get a stake survey.
Yeah.
So when they purchase the house, they don't see where the corners are.
Yeah. Now, did they buy it from the owner itself or did they get it off the market? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, is there anything we can do about the water runoff?
Well, that's already addressed in the stormwater plan.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, there's going to be times where people are going to say, oh, it's not working. But again, it kind of comes down to you plan and design it not for Black Friday, you plan and design it for regular use,
Right.
So that's a
Well,
difficult one.
I was looking at because there's a lot of concrete back there.
Mhm.
When it rolls off the concrete, it's going to roll down that slope and then just go straight to his yard. Is anything can be done by making sure they have enough vegetation there or grass or something?
In order to close out the property project, they do have to have either, if it has seed and straw that hasn't taken yet, they do have to keep all their silt control fencing up until vegetation has grown on that slope,
Okay.
or they have to put in sod.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about this sign? I saw a sign that tree protection or tree something.
Yeah, there's usually tree protection fencing, which
Uh-huh.
would have been up around it during, as part of the approved plan, because previously they were supposed to save it. So that fencing would still be up.
Yeah. Oh, well, we tried.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, we got three on.
How's everybody doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Good. Okay. Good to see you. Now I'm getting ready to disappear for a while.
My supervisor is here tonight.
I was just gonna say,
Oh,
And the assistant supervisor is right here.
so I call them the tutors at home, helping, except they're not. They are simply knocking things off the table when they get annoyed that she's on Zoom all day.
yeah.
Not helpful at all.
Got to be the center of attention.
Yep.
When everybody starts talking, he may take off because he's really not too sociable, but he's doing pretty well right now.
Oh,
We have 4.
wow.
All right, looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as Ken gets connected, we've got all of you. I can see Ken, but I can't see any audio or video for him. We might wait a few more minutes.
You got many people working in your office, Bob?
What's that?
Do you have many people in the office working? Or is everybody remote?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. I mean, it has been mainly about half the office seems to want to be there and the other half doesn't have to be. So that's kind of how it worked out.
Yeah.
And then I have a studio separate. So when I want to work out of the office, I just come to my studio, which is where I'm at today.
Oh, okay. I thought that was your office. I thought I saw a keyboard back there.
Oh, yeah. This is not my office. This is my studio.
Cool.
Yeah, so I
That's
do
nice.
music here and architecture both, but
Wow. It's nice to
Yeah,
have a
that's
little
neat.
space to go to. Yeah.
Mhm. For sure.
I don't know what to do about Ken. I see him, but I can't even like ask him to unmute or ask him to add video because it doesn't even give those.
Do you
Yeah.
have a cell phone number that you could call him or something? Maybe that would work.
Oh, wait,
Oh,
this went
it went
off.
away.
Maybe
Maybe
we
he's,
can try to connect again.
yeah.
Some of these have gotten so easy and some of these have gotten very stressful.
Now, Tracy, you work out of your house or do you have a studio?
We have an office in the Central West End, but
Oh, okay.
only go in there 1 day a week just
Yeah.
because it's pretty small and we have to wear masks the whole time we're there. So it's just a little
Right.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But at least we have 1 day to kind of collaborate together.
Yeah. No, that's good. Because you need that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I need the server too. You get really big files or
Yeah. It's
it's hard
true.
to do remote.
Oh, yay. We got the tech help.
Yep.
All right, well, wait, wait until.
Maybe he had to carry his computer somewhere to get a better signal or something.
Oh,
Okay. Are we in?
we're in.
Yep.
Great.
Awesome.
My wife's computer was set to go to her laptop at her office
Oh,
and have a camera or a speaker, so I didn't know that. So anyway,
That's okay.
Yeah.
So thanks all for coming on for work session, even though we don't have anything really to talk about in work session, since it's all going to be able to be pretty quick and easy. I had gone to the city council at their last meeting and started talking with them a little bit about some potential changes to the ARB ordinance in order to allow for some of the smaller things that I think we have found through this crazy Zoom series of meetings are ones that probably could have been maybe pre-approved or done by staff. So the code has a very specific limitation on how much square footage can be approved by staff and not have to go to ARB. It also has some very specific regulations of, you know, things in historic districts that can't go to staff. And so what I had said to the council was, I'd really like to open up the idea or look at maybe changing a few of those things just a little bit. So things like, you know, sometimes when windows come before us and they make a change and it's a change that probably you all would be fine with, but yet it says that I can't approve things on the front elevation. Or if someone is taking a very small porch and expanding it ever so slightly on the front elevation, can't do it as a staff approval. Anything at all in a historic district, even if it's on the rear, even if it's on, you know, completely not visible on the side, any changes in the historic district, we can't staff approve. Now, the way the code has it, it says that staff could still, even if it was something that technically could be pre-approved, staff can still say, we don't feel it has enough information, and we can still require them to go to ARB. So it's not a definitive, oh, if they are under 200 square feet, they automatically get the wave through. We say to them, you have to provide the level of drawings that we would require you to do before ARB. And then we make sure that they're meeting what they need to meet. The council wanted us to talk with you all a little bit about that and potentially about process, procedures, things like that. Because again, I think right now we're doing kind of a crazy thing just to make it easier on all of us by getting the information from each of you, consolidating it, calling the applicant, asking for changes. In some cases, I found that some of the errors that they're making, my staff could have probably caught However, we are so busy right now, they're just trying, when the deadline comes, they're just trying to slap together and make sure it meets the basic zoning and the basic information and get those packets out to you, because we're just getting too many things in all at once. We finally got passed through, we had a glut of new projects that were in, and we were so behind. But there might be some ways, and so I just wanted to give this time, since we've got about another 20 minutes until the meeting starts, for you all to talk to each other and brainstorm on what would be some things you'd be comfortable with, that you've seen, that you think, hey, staff could handle, or what are some processes that we might be able to change in the code that maybe right now we're doing because we're in a weird virtual thing, that maybe might be some options. So I will let you talk.
I guess my first thought is, what is there a square footage threshold that we want to set?
So right now it's at 200 square feet in the code, and 200 square
Okay.
feet, and it has to be in the not visible from the right-of-way elevation, so side or rear, towards the back, and not in a historic district. So one of my potentials was thinking about maybe 400 square feet and 1 story, but if it goes over 1 story, or if it becomes something larger than 400 square feet, it would go to you. That was my initial take, but the council was like, well, is that too big, and asking questions. And I would love to run some numbers to see. I feel like we either get someone comes in with 220 square feet, and as soon as they find out that they have to go to ARB for 220, they sometimes shave it off just enough to get under 200 to just go through the process faster. And then I think the next threshold is we then have these 800, 900 square foot additions. You know, there's not really an in-between, which is why I was thinking maybe bumping it up to 300 or 400 might take a couple more off your plate.
And that would be at the rear of the home, right?
I'm sorry, what?
And that would be at the rear of the home?
At this point, still saying rear of the home.
You know, one thing about, oh, I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Wouldn't have any problem with it. My biggest concern is I would like to get, if we have to wear masks, but I think we serve our residents a lot better with the in-person meetings. This Zoom thing it's kind of become a veto squad. I don't quite understand how it's working, but that's a different topic. So, but go ahead.
Our problem is the limitation on this room. So even though your group is small enough, once we add in all the applicants, we are potentially going over the maximum that we're allowed in this room.
Okay. What is that 17 or something like that?
Yeah, it's something around that. We have to have a whole series, and we thought through a couple options, and we're concerned. It just doesn't really work well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we do a better job in person, I think. And I think it's more productive for the residents coming in with their homes as well. But that's a different topic, so why don't we get back on what your issues are. But on that point, I don't see any reason why 400 square feet off the rear of the house couldn't be reviewed more expeditiously. And I think in general, when it comes to windows, if somebody's replacing windows, they're not changing the fenestration at all. Aren't you already able to do that?
Yeah, we definitely are. Technically.
Anywhere and everywhere?
Say that again?
Anywhere and everywhere?
Yeah, anywhere and everywhere. If it is an exact like for like, in terms of the character of that window, we're just approving.
Okay.
If it's a minor change on the side or rear and it's not in a historic district, even though it doesn't say we've been moving some of those through. Yeah, we've been trying. The hard part is there's a few things we've been doing, which I think you all would agree with, but it doesn't technically say we can do that right now.
Well, you're just using a little common sense to make the thing flow a little better for the people living in the town. So
yeah, right now we're
trying to over to the rest of the board here.
One of the things that crossed my mind, just because I've been driving by some of these sites recently, I totally agree with maybe enlarging the square footage limit and taking a look at that. But as far as saying, well, if it's on the rear or I think we need to be a little bit careful with that and somehow find some wording that would address conditions where there's sometimes, like on a curvilinear street or something, or you drive down the approaching street, like on that project we had recently on California. You drive down the street approaching that, and the huge brick facade that is the rear of that building is what you see on the approach drive.
Mhm.
So, you know, maybe there could be some consideration in the language that would be somehow site specific to what's visible. You're more familiar with that than I am.
That's already in there. It actually says readily visible from the right of way.
Okay.
So it does say readily visible from the right of way. That kind of covered any that were on a corner lot. So they're still doing a really big addition on a corner lot, and it's completely visible from the right of way. So the language we ended up putting in was readily visible, I believe, from the right of way.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Any thoughts on historic districts? You know, again, I know that the council was concerned. They said, oh, you know, right now they trust having me do some of this due to the fact that, you know, both myself and the previous planning director had degrees in architecture. So it's a little bit easier for those of us that, you know, that's what we were trained in, and that's what we know. They're afraid to make changes in the code, and then they made a joke of like, well, what if Mara isn't here in 5 years? And I said, well, I hope to be here for the next 15, but if we can kind of work around that. And I understand that fear. I totally get it. So, but there's been quite a few really minor things in historic districts. And I think, you know, we get some regular, regular architects doing a lot of the things in historic districts, and they do sensitive amendments to existing homes. And that's where the hard part comes, is how to write that language to kind of cover some of those that are silly that they even have to come to you.
That one is difficult, you know, because it's a certified local government too, with, you know, the Park Service. And so it does make it a little tricky in what you do with your historic districts. You don't want someone to come along and say you're not doing it properly either. These are supposed to all be reviewed by some sort of body. So that one's kind of tricky. It is one thing I know when you have certain architects make some minor changes to a house that everyone knows is going to be fine, but
And maybe that's one we don't tackle.
yeah, because there are other things. I think when you say that about the windows, I know that I've seen some renovations where we didn't see it, and people make very small changes to their windows, or they do something that's pretty minor to their house on the side or the back, and I don't know how that works out, but you know, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be coming to us. So yeah, there's some stuff that definitely, like increasing the size, 1-story 20 by 20 room on the back. Yeah, I don't know, that it seems like you would be able to know if it looks halfway appropriate or it should go before us, or you know, you could at least make that decision. So but in the historic district, it's more tricky on what you say. I don't know.
You know, I agree with what Mara is saying about, you know, there's certain architects that we see a lot who we know are very attuned to what isn't and isn't appropriate for an historic property. But obviously you can't write anything about that into an ordinance.
Yeah.
And I would hate to see something written into an ordinance to allow more, what seem like more minor changes to an historic property that end up being done by someone who is less skilled. And
Right.
it ends up going through and not being a good service to the building or to the district.
Yeah, I guess I wonder about the kind of death by 1,000 cuts, You know, so they do one thing and then they go back with the same house and they're doing something else. And then, and all these things are not things that come before us. So, you know, you do, things
One
add up.
thought or question, and this is something that we did with the Historic Preservation Commission. We expanded how many, the age of the house that they look at for demolition, to try to make sure that they weren't demolishing something that might be a mid-century modern, because it was only set at 100 years. So we moved that number to be 50 years. But then we put a provision in there that if someone came in with like a detached garage from 1940 that, you know, has no historic significance and other things like that, we've been writing up a little staff report, passing it to the members, and they had talked about having like a subcommittee that like one month, these 3 people would look at it. And if no one has concerns of those 3, it just moves along and doesn't have to come to a meeting. So there were some conversations about that. And because of the way we've been doing this, sending the packets out and getting them to you at a certain point, would you want to even have something similar to that of, and it would be problematic, I think, with deadlines, and I'd have to figure out how it all would work, but would it be something where we send it to you and you look at it and you say, no, it doesn't need to come to a meeting, and we are able to approve it? You know, like that kind of thing. That it would still come to you, but it wouldn't have to wait the full 2 weeks to go. And maybe we had a regular schedule of some things that staff thinks are minor and be able to go partway through the process in a different
How would you handle the public comment portion of something like that?
So I need to look and see how the public comment is written in there. I know that it's important to have the public comment. It could be that we still put the sign up in the yard and that they submit their public comment to us, you know, either via phone or email or by mail. Because I will tell you that in all the time that I've been here where I've sat at an ARB meeting, I don't even know if there's even been public comment on even 10 times. I mean, I'm thinking it's more like 5.
Yeah.
And that's going
There's
on.
fingers left on that hand that you don't need to know. It's like 3 or 2.
I mean, it's good to provide that notification. And so maybe if we ask for that I mean, we could still require the sign in the yard and then and maybe put it up earlier, like as soon as it gets turned in, and then have a time frame of when, I mean, we'd have to create a whole nother set of schedules, but it might shorten some of these much smaller minor things while still being reviewed by all of you. It's an option. I mean, we could look at it and pass it by you and see if it even makes sense.
I mean, I think it's something to be considered, you know. Yeah, I like the idea, if we are going to do that, of putting a sign up earlier, so anybody who lives nearby has more of an opportunity to find out what's going on, or maybe even see the project in advance. So they're not commenting blind. You would know whether you wanted to comment or not, because often I hear something that says, oh, like only 2 or 3 people see that, so it really doesn't matter. But what goes through my mind is, if I was one of those 2 or 3 people and ended up looking at something that was objectionable, I don't think I would like it very much if somebody said, well, you know, it went to the board and they decided since you were the only one who saw it, it didn't matter. That would not be okay with me. And I can't help but think about neighbors who might have a prominent view of the side or the rear. And I do think they should have an opportunity to see what's going on and comment on it. I think that's really important, that everybody be considered in that way.
And one option we could have, which we haven't done for ARB just because there's so many different things. You know, we get drawings in on 5 different size papers. We get them, I mean, you've seen them. You've seen how the packets come. But for Plan Commission, we require at least some sort of digital or in a format that's very easy to scan. And we actually do digital packets for Plan Commission, digital packets for Board of Adjustment, and then the items that go to City Council are digital. One thing we could do for historic districts is have it be something that's digital so that the sign goes up and they can come onto the website and look at the packet so that it's available to the public that way. If it was just doing the historic, that would make it a whole lot easier on us. When we have to do the entire packet, we just don't have staff time to do that. But that could be an option, that the sign could go up and with a link of here's where you go to see what's being submitted. And then a time frame to be able to comment on it.
I think that makes great sense. And then, you know, of course, for people who maybe aren't tech savvy or something, there might be some sort of come to City Hall to look at it kind of option. But I think that makes great sense for the historic district, for people to be able to have a little more advance notice and then to actually see the submittal so they know if they want to comment or not. They may look at it and go, oh, yay, that's great. That looks good to me. It's even an improvement. I'm so happy. And they don't have to kind of wonder, well, is this going to be worth my time or not? I think that sounds really good.
We can look at that as an option and then see what we'd have to change in the ordinance to allow that to happen.
Another option would be implement the larger square feet on homes outside the historical district, and don't mess with the historical district right now. Give it a little time to wean itself and see what we want to do later. But sounds like all the stuff you're doing regarding the historical district is very complicated, and I wouldn't want that to hold up the other parts of town that aren't historical, because I think that would expedite the process, and I think the community would enjoy that.
And we could focus and start with windows, bumping up to the 400 square feet, not readily visible from the right of way. And I think the only other one I had said to the council, I'll tell you what I said to the council, allowing larger additions in the rear to be reviewed. But we would make sure that they have workmanlike drawings for review. We had additional clarification on rear decks, ramps, front porches that don't have a major architectural change. So that was trying to take care of some of those, like, it's just a deck, and some people do pretty large decks, but really it's just a simple deck with a simple railing, as long as they have all the detailing and all the information. We talked about window changes. We talked about whether there'd be an ability to do minor options in a historic district. And then those were really the only ones that I brought up with council as some potential options to think about. Well, how about this? I'll draft something up and maybe send it out to all of you just to see what we were thinking with some red lines, so you can see what the code says now and what we were thinking about changing. And if that seems, that you think that we're not going too far off and that you are in agreement, then what we would do is take it to a public hearing at the city council. And then after it goes to the public hearing, they would be able to make the amendments, and then we could integrate that into the applications.
Is city council meeting in person, or what, are they still Zooming?
Still Zooming. The problem that we have with that is that if some members of the council, due to multiple reasons, can't meet in person, we do not have the ability to record. Our room is not set up, and you all have seen it with the sound problems. The room is not set up for multiple people to be talking into multiple microphones with the sound system. And we don't have the ability to record so that you can see all the members. So that's been quite difficult.
Okay. Well,
Even just the minimum of council members plus department heads and staff would exceed our, I think, 17 by the time you add those people up.
I get it. Okay. No.
I would just assume we're on Zoom through the end of the year. And then I'm hoping that we, in January, that we have the ability to start going back to elements of in-person, or we figure out some creative ways to do in-person in a different way.
Anything we could do to get the meetings back where everybody's in the room, even the people whose project's not being reviewed, they're being in the room when the project's being reviewed, and the board hearing in real time what people are saying and responding to it is the better product. I think everybody has to agree with that. So.
You know, this is maybe a little off the wall, and y'all feel free to laugh, but maybe you could do something like they do at some of the DMV offices or something. People could wait in their cars, and then when their project is about to come up, you call them on their cell phone and say, you can come in that building now. I mean, you know, that I've had that approach where I've been trying to, you know, go about normal life when they just, they ping you when you're ready to come in, but you know, you can't come in until they tell you it's okay. And that way you could control your occupancy a little bit better. You'd have the in-person element, and then you would be limiting exposure of too many people passing each other and that sort of thing. I mean, it's just, that's a little out there, but it just crossed my mind.
It's not that far out there. We actually had talked about how, you know, we could stage the members according to where they were on the agenda, and that we could then stage them out in the hall, so that, you know, once a project is done and someone leaves, that a different member could come in. So it's not that far off. We had discussed that. And we were trying to just keep them in City Hall so that they could maybe line up in the hallway or line up downstairs. And I think they talked about that for the court. They were even going to do that for court. And they finally gave up on that because it's such a large number compared to ARB. ARB, I think we could make it work. It's just a question of if everyone else is comfortable. I mean, I don't want one person to feel like they should be coming in, because I'd want the whole board to be unanimous that they want to come in. And I'd probably prefer we wait through, get us through December, get us past flu season, or at least the beginning of flu season, get us past a few of the various holidays where people are going to want to gather because they haven't seen anyone in forever.
I think that sounds smart.
See where we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you're going to have applicants that aren't willing to do that as well. So that's the difficulty here, even if the entire board's there. So, you know, not being able to share drawings, or, I mean, that's how, you know, of course, what Ken's saying is right. I mean, the most productive way was when we sat down with people, of course, but that's not the reality now. So if, one thing I thought though, if there's a way to, you know, share screen, because, you know, that's the one thing we sometimes, you know, miss from sitting around the table, is that if there is a elevation that you really want to discuss with the client, it's kind of hard doing it on Zoom without being able to see it.
And that comes back to that difficulty of, in order to share it, we'd have to scan it. And then, you know, how are we scanning every single project and creating a PowerPoint of it? Because that's the way you have to share the screen. And for us at City Hall, our only way to get it onto this shared screen is actually to bring it up with a thumb drive. It's not connected to our network. So we've done it, but mainly for a plan commission meeting, a board of adjustment meeting, where we've spent a couple hours putting the PowerPoint together. Mm-hmm. And so, but I agree with you. I was starting to lean towards that of, you know, is there a way we could scan things? But not everybody gives it to us in digital format. And even if they did, it starts to become a little more onerous than you might think. Mainly because we're dealing with, you know, 12 different entities here and there, sure. Which can get kind of complicated.
Yeah, it seems like only if it came to it, if that was an option, because most of the projects, you know, probably don't need that, but there might be some. So that just a thought I had on trying to improve the Zoom.
Yeah, I would agree. I kept early on thinking of ways that we could put it up there, but boy, that's a lot of staff time on Kelly.
Yeah.
We are past 5:30. I don't see the attendees, and I'm wondering, I don't think they would have gotten confused because we sent a separate email to them saying this one was still on, and we but they also had other projects that were pre-approved. So there might be a confusion, but we could at least start the meeting and you could, and I'll keep watching to see if anyone joins, but you could start the meeting, you could approve your minutes and
Yep.
start going through the pre-approvals.
Right. All right. And Mara, one point of clarification. Did you send out the pre-approvals? Oh, you emailed those?
Yep,
Okay.
I did.
Does everyone have a copy of those?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
It's all of them.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll begin the meeting since the work session is now ended tonight. We have with us Angela Thompson, Tracy Collins, Carol Dunkey, Ken Burns, and myself, Bob Buckman on the ARB. And from the city, Mara, I'm not sure if anyone else is there with Mara, but if there are, it would be Kelly and Will. First item on the agenda would be review of our October 1st meeting minutes, which everyone has a copy of. If there's any comments, and if not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the October 1st, 2020 meeting minutes as submitted.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, meeting minutes have been approved. Next, we have pre-approvals, and then we'll finish with the one project that's a public hearing. So as I read them off, if someone could read the motion from what Mara set out. First is 533 Locust Court. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 553 Locust Court as submitted.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? That's approved. Next, we have 630 South Berry. Do I have a motion?
I have a question on this. What does that comment mean?
That's something that I saw on the drawing. So they've got two brackets on either side of the door. The existing house has 4 corbels, one on either side of the door and 2 on either end. And I put it out there as a suggestion. It doesn't, have any, it's an option for them. They wanted to add brackets on the ends of that overhang on either side, kind of where those corbels exist now.
I must have failed to notice that in their presentation. I assumed they were just keeping the 2 brackets at the end of the,
They're not, they're removing them all.
they're removing them all. Okay.
And the designer said that was a good option, but they still needed to talk with the applicants. And so we were just gonna leave it in there that if they wanted to, since it's on the front, they wouldn't have to come back.
Were we saying they have to do this or it's not?
Nope.
I don't,
They don't have to. It's just a consideration that they can, and if they would like to, it's approved either way.
oh, and if they just left the 2 little, what are they, stalactites or stalagmites at the corner of the building, I wouldn't have any problem with that either. I think if they do the brackets at the door, having the 2 inverted, whatever they are, that close to it would be a problem, so. But if it's not binding in any way, I'm fine with it, so. Doesn't sound like it's binding.
Optional. Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, I'll make a motion. 630 South Berry. Would like to approve with the consideration of possible fiberglass brackets on either end of the existing overhang to match ones that are proposed at the front entry.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trying to figure out what that's gonna look like. I didn't understand this, so. You got three votes, right? So you're good to go.
We got 4.
4. Oh, you need 4? Oh, you got 4. Yeah, you got 4.
So we have 4 ayes. Any nays? Ken, you're gonna abstain?
I don't know what to do here because I don't know what those, I'd have to look and see what those brackets would look like, and I don't want to hold the meeting up, so I'll just pass.
So are you
All right.
abstaining or voting no? What?
Yeah, I guess I'm abstaining.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
All right, next we have 832 Clark. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 832 Clark with the amended elevation submitted on 10/14/2020 with the understanding that if porch columns and front door change from what has been drawn, that amended elevations will be submitted for review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? All right, we approved there. Next, we have 445 Sherwood. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 445 Sherwood as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Sherwood is approved. Next, 508 Ambergate. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 508 Ambergate with the understanding that the existing windows are remaining as shown in the photos of the house.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
Aye. Opposed? And last on the pre-approval, 1314 Wells. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 1314 Wells with the understanding that the infill around the windows will be siding to match the existing and with the deck details submitted on October 13, 2020.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's the pre-approvals. Public hearing 448 Hawthorne. I don't know if there was any comments on this one.
I didn't have
What?
any.
Are we waiting for someone, Mara, to join us?
I just brought Mike over. He's the architect for the applicant.
Okay. Hi, Mike. Is there anyone else on the call?
No one else?
Okay. So does anyone from the board have comments or questions for Mike?
No, it looks fine.
Looks good.
I'm good.
Looks good. It's a public hearing. Any comments from anyone else? No one else is online. So that's a no. With that, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve as submitted, 448 Hawthorne.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. Approved.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. That's it till next month.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Good night.